to my channel. Today I want to share with you some benefits of reading aloud in the classroom. Now as teachers, I know that you are aware that there are so many reasons to read aloud with your class. So today I want to share with you different ways that you can use read alouds in your classroom. And you know that I love sharing book titles with you. So for each one of these reasons, I'm going to share a couple ideas of books that you can read aloud to your class. But first, if you're new here, my name is Sarah, and I love to share read aloud tips, book ideas, and ways that you can use books in your classroom. Every Sunday night, I have a new video that comes out with different ideas of how you can incorporate more read alouds into your daily classroom routine. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit that red subscribe button below, and we'll get started with the benefits of read alouds in the classroom. One of the first major benefits of reading aloud in the classroom is that it builds classroom community. By reading aloud together every day, you are fostering relationships between not only you and your students, but among your students. You'll have that shared experience with each other. You'll have met the same characters and been to the same places through your books, through your reading with each other. And you'll be able to have those discussions around those books. You'll be encouraging participation from your students. Students will have the opportunity to learn about each other. And it promotes that inclusivity to make sure that all students are welcome in your classroom. And one of my favorite books to use is a fairly new one, but this is a great one to build community. And this one is called This is a School. And it's not only just about how your classroom is a community, but how your whole school is, and how everyone there is working to help each other and encouraging each other to grow. Another benefit of reading aloud in the classroom is that it exposes students to new ideas. Not only is it building their language acquisition and building their vocabulary, but by choosing a variety of diverse books, you'll be broadening their perspectives. You'll be giving them a better understanding of different lifestyles and different cultures, and helping them to be appreciative of all these different things, all these amazing things that are in our world. The third benefit of reading aloud in the classroom that I think is so important, and I think can be something really tricky, but that picture books make it a lot easier. Building empathy, especially with younger kids. It's really hard for them to understand how others are feeling. It's hard for them to put themselves in somebody else's shoes. But when you read a book about different characters, they start to understand that, start to internalize that everyone feels different, that everyone has a different background. It gives them insight into those different feelings, those different emotions. They see what the characters are going through. They see or they understand what the characters are thinking. Whereas that's something you don't always get in real life, is when interacting with another person, you don't always know what they're thinking. But picture books really provide that for students. It gives them that opportunity to imagine themselves in somebody else's shoes and see things from different perspectives. And I have two of my favorite books to help develop empathy. The first one is Strictly No Elephants. And in this one, a young boy is excluded from a pet club because he has an elephant, and elephants are not allowed in the pet club. And you understand how sad that makes him, how he feels to be left out. I think students will see that different perspective that they might not if they're leaving others out. Another one of my favorites is The Invisible Boy. And again, I've talked about both of these on this channel before, and I have lessons to go along with them as well. But in this story, there's a young boy who's very sweet, kind, but is just so quiet and nobody seems to notice him. He's invisible. And I think it points out to students that sometimes kids do feel invisible, and that just by reaching out and helping them can make a huge difference in another student's life. Another reason to read aloud in the classroom is that it's fun. It brings joy to the reading experience. I think a lot of times we get caught up in using picture books just to teach, and sometimes students don't realize that reading can be fun. That it's not just something you do in school because your teacher or your parent tells you you have to, but that you can get so much enjoyment from it. And as you, the teacher, make it fun and engaging, you're sharing your passion for reading with your students and bringing the story to life, and and that will only fuel their own excitement about reading. And some fun ones that I like to read are ones like the Pigeon books or Elephant and Piggy, because they're silly and they're simple, but just a lot of fun to laugh together and to have fun with your students. Another series that I like is the Creepy series, the Creepy Carrot, the Creepy Crayon. Those are other fun ones that engage your students, and they'll have a lot of fun with them as well. So it's so important when we're reading aloud to make sure that we're doing it for the enjoyment of it as well, and showing students what wonderful thing reading is so that they become those lifelong readers. Another really crucial benefit of reading aloud is to support student identities. Again, by incorporating a variety of diverse picture books into your classroom, we can help students feel seen and feel valued. We can make students feel proud of who they are and see the importance in their own identity. And by using stories that reflect their culture, their values, their experiences, we can help students better relate to the material. When they see themselves reflected in those picture books, in those images, they're more willing to be engaged. They internalize what the book is about. It really develops that emotional intelligence, and again, brings in that empathy factor as well. And by understanding different perspectives, helps all of our students to become open-minded. And a couple books that I have to support student identities include I'm New Here, The Day You Begin, and I Am Every Good Thing. And each month, more and more books are being released that celebrate student identities and diverse cultures. So make sure that you check out my new release videos, because each month I try to share a variety of books that are brand new and share a variety of cultures and experiences that you can use in your classroom. The next benefit that I have for reading aloud in the classroom kind of encompasses the first 5 or so that I've already talked about, but it really helps build social emotional skills with students. As I mentioned earlier, sometimes it's hard for students to understand what to do in a situation and how to interact with others sometimes. But when we're reading books aloud and sharing characters, and they're seeing these characters go through different situations, it helps them to put themselves in the character's shoes. It helps them to know what to do next time they come across that difficult situation. So whether it's making new friends or dealing with a bully, using books to talk about it ahead of time prepares students for when they come across that in their own lives. And again, it helps them learn about that empathy and to build and be able to express their own emotions that they might not otherwise have been able to do. Picture books have this powerful effect on students and even adults to help them deal with difficult situations. A couple books that I have for this one are Ruby Finds a Worry. And in this story, Ruby has this thing that's worrying her. And rather than facing it, she kind of tries to ignore it. And instead of going away, the worry gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And students can visually see the worry. It's this little guy right here. And it gives them, first of all, they can connect with it because they know that they've been in that situation before. They've worried about something, and instead of dealing with it, it just gets bigger and bigger. And by giving this visual of something that's more abstract, students can understand what it means and how they can help face it, what they can do instead to make it go away. When they see Ruby go through this first, when they have something that worries them, they can refer back to Ruby and think, what did she do in that situation and what can I do now? And another one that I have is Stand Tall, Molly Lou Mellon. And this is a fun book, but it deals with bullying. And Molly Lou Mellon is this tiny little girl, and she moves to a new school, and she's being bullied by a boy who makes fun of her size, but she stands tall. She's proud of who she is, and eventually they start to get along at the end. But again, a situation that some of your students will come across, and by being able to see how Molly dealt with it will give them the power, the tools that they need when they have to deal with that situation. Another benefit of reading aloud in the classroom is that it equalizes text access for all students. We know that our students are all at different levels of reading on their own, depending on the grade level, and by reading aloud, they're all sharing that same experience. They're all given access to that same information, those same characters, and it gives them the opportunity to have the discussions with you or with the other students in the classroom about the same concept, the same topic, the same ideas. By removing that barrier of decoding words, they're all receiving that same exposure to the content of the book that you're sharing. And it really empowers those students. It motivates students who might not be great readers or who are struggling with reading. Another powerful reason that reading aloud in the classroom is beneficial for students. Similarly, it models fluency for students. So especially those younger grades when students are still learning how to read, by seeing a reading role model, someone who reads well, and hearing that on a daily basis, they're starting to understand what reading should sound like, what they should be sounding like, or eventually how they should be reading their own books. They hear that intonation, the inflection, and know and understand the pacing of a book. Another benefit for reading aloud in the classroom is that it builds schema. And I touched on this a bit before, but it gives students access to vocabulary that's not heard in normal, everyday conversations. Picture books are written at a much higher level than even some television shows, and students are gaining that vocabulary just by listening to it in a read aloud. They're also exposed to new topics and ideas, and it's allowing them to think more deeply. And again, because all students are accessing the same text, it gives them those opportunities to discuss these new topics and really go deeper than even what just the text says. Students are able to connect with the text, and they're able to apply their own life experiences. Again, with that social emotional learning, they can connect and say, oh, that's happened to me before. Or later on, they can say, what did that character do? And how can I apply it to my own life? And I love that read alouds encourage questions from students about what they hear. Again, it creates those conversations around new ideas. It really makes your students' brains come alive during the day in the classroom. And to go along with it, the last benefit I have for reading aloud is that it can be used throughout the curriculum, throughout the day in your classroom. I know that when I first started teaching, I thought read alouds are just for reading time, but they can be used for all the subjects, all of the areas in your classroom to help students understand and learn about new topics. Picture books are a great way to introduce new concepts to students, whether it's in science or social studies, even in math. And it starts to promote that interest. They're reading a book about it, they want to know more, they have those questions. And that gives you that opportunity to then dive in to what you are planning on teaching, the standards that you're addressing that go along with that topic of the picture book. Picture books make it easier for students to understand new concepts and eventually deepens their comprehension, their understanding, their background knowledge of what you are teaching. It helps them connect to what you are talking about on a whole different level. And again, it encourages those questions, those discussions, those conversations, and makes it more meaningful for them. A great example of using picture books to teach other subjects would be, I love the Over and Under series by Kate Messner, and this one is great for science, and she talks about concepts in nature and in a beautiful way that can be read aloud, but that will encourage students to want to learn more about the topics that she's discussing. So those are my 10 benefits for reading aloud in the classroom, and as I mentioned before, there are so many reasons to read aloud, and I think I could be on here all day long talking about them, but I felt like I needed to narrow it down just a little bit, so I gave myself the limit of just 10 so that the video wouldn't go on forever. But I hope these benefits, these reasons for reading aloud, encourage you to do it in your classroom, to read aloud more with your students, because it will make a huge impact on not only their learning, but their lives overall. And all of the books that I mentioned, I will leave linked in the description box down below. And I even have a few lessons to go along with some of the books that I shared, so I will leave links to those in the description box as well. But make sure you stay tuned, because every Sunday night I come back with read aloud tips and book ideas for you to use in your classroom right away. Thank you so much for watching, and if this was helpful for you, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and hit that red subscribe button down below, because it helps me to know what kind of videos you guys are looking for so that I can make sure I create more of those to share with you every Sunday night. Have a great week.